As a leader, you have to stop trying to be liked. I know that sounds harsh, but almost every manager I've watched lose their team's respect started by trying too hard to keep everyone happy. If being liked is the goal, the actual goal, you're already in trouble. And I don't mean that to scare you. I mean it as something I've watched play out over time with good people, good leaders who wanted to do the right thing by their team, but ended up losing their team's trust instead. So here's what's coming in this episode. Why chasing liked cost you more than you think. What being respected actually looks like day to day, and exactly what to start doing this week to build it. Stick around because the fix is simpler than you'd expect, but it's not the one most people reach to first. Welcome to the Honest Leadership Series, where we talk about how to become better, more honest leaders in a world that's filled with the opposite. My promise is to give you simple actions that you can take, a plan for tomorrow, not just some theory to admire. If that sounds good to you, please go ahead and subscribe. And if this episode helps you in any way, please drop a like before you go. So here's today's plan for tomorrow. Figure out which one you're actually leading for, because most managers think they're building a great team, but what they're actually doing is trying to build a fan club. You know, leaders don't just decide to chase being liked. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what, today I'm going to prioritize popularity over everything else. But it does creep in one small decision at a time. It looks like letting a missed deadline slide because you don't want to have an awkward conversation. It looks like softening feedback so many times and so much that by the end, the person has no idea anything was even wrong. It looks like holding your best people and your worst people to two different standards because the friendly one is just harder to disappoint. Individually, none of these feel like a big deal, but that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Here's the cost. Your standards stop meaning anything because everyone can see they only apply some of the time. Your people start to notice that the effort isn't what's really being rewarded, the relationship is. And that has so many negative implications. And the part that stings the most, it doesn't even work. You don't end up being more liked. You end up managing a team that stopped believing a word you say because they've learned your word bends the moment it's inconvenient. Respect is what's left over after you stop performing for approval. But respect also doesn't mean being feared, and it doesn't mean being distant either. It's not really the opposite of warmth. It's this: when you give someone feedback, they actually do something with it. Instead of nodding, thanking you, and then changing nothing. It's also this: people can be straight with you, and you can be straight with them, and nobody's walking on eggshells to get there. When you make a call, it sticks. People don't wait a week to see if you'll cave because they already know you won't. That's the version of liked worth having, by the way. Not liked because you never push back, liked because people know exactly where they stand with you and that your leadership is predictable. So how do you start being respected this week? Well, you don't build this in one big speech, and you don't build this by having one great conversation and then calling it done. You build it with a handful of small, repeatable moves, the same ones over and over until your team stops testing whether you mean them and starts assuming that you do. Here are 4 simple things that you can do tomorrow. Number 1, say the hard thing sooner. Not brutally, but just sooner. Right now, there's probably a piece of feedback that you've been sitting on. Maybe it's a missed deadline you let go, a tone in a meeting you decided not to address, a pattern you've noticed but haven't really named out loud. The version of that conversation you're avoiding really doesn't get easier in a month. It really gets harder because by then it's not just one instance anymore. It's a pattern that you let become normal. Say it while it's still small enough to fix. Number 2, hold the same line for everyone. Your standards can't bend for people you personally like best. This is the one that gets managers in trouble the most without them ever noticing. Because it rarely feels like favoritism from the inside. It feels like being reasonable or understanding or giving someone a break that they clearly need. But your team is watching who gets the benefit of the doubt and who doesn't. The moment they notice it's not evenly applied, every rule you have starts to feel optional to them too. Number 3, let a decision sit. Once you've made a call, don't reopen it just because someone pushed back or seemed disappointed. This is harder than it sounds though, because in the moment, reversing it feels like flexibility or listening to them, but it really isn't. It teaches your team that any type of pressure, whether it be a long face, a raised voice, maybe a well-timed complaint to your boss, is what actually moves you and not the rationale behind the decision in the first place. And once people learn that, they're going to use it every single time. Number 4, trade sorry for here's what I decided and why. You don't need to apologize for having standards or for making a decision that disappointed someone. What you need is to explain the reasoning clearly enough that people can follow it, even if they don't love where it lands. Saying, I'm sorry, I know this isn't what you wanted, teaches people the decision was a mistake. Saying something like, here's why I landed here, teaches them you thought through it. And that's the version that holds up the next time you have to make a call that they don't like either. None of these make you unlikable. They make you predictable. And predictability from a manager is one of the most underrated things that you can be. So here's the one thing to actually try this week. Find the one piece of feedback that you've been sitting on because you didn't want the conversation to feel awkward. And then just have it. Not harshly, just honestly, and before it turns into a pattern. It might be a hard conversation, but I promise you it will be worth it. And if you want to go deeper on exactly how to have those conversations, the hard ones that most managers avoid, I have an entire book dedicated to that subject. It's called Say It Anyway, A New Leader's Guide to Hard Conversation. The link's below if you'd like to check it out. So there you have it. 4 simple things that you can start doing to be respected rather than just merely liked. I sincerely hope this helps you. If it did, please leave a like or subscribe before you go. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.